What's good, everybody? It's the Clown of a Cab Show, UFC 294. What a turnaround. I mean, obviously, we had Charles Oliveira versus Islam, but that fight got canceled out. And then we had Paulo Costa versus Hamzat Chimaev, and that ends up getting canceled out. Charles Oliveira's out with the cut. And look, it is what it is at that point. It's just like, you know, your whole life you fight for this moment in a little cut. I just think it's kind of petty. And then Paulo Costa's out with an elbow injury. He said it's some type of disease. Sounds like his little, coochie's hurt because I cannot believe it. Paulo Costa, to me, is one of those fighters that's more worried about what I look like on camera, how good my physique is, compared to winning world titles. That's how I look at Paulo Costa. Costa, man, it's sad, man. His downfall is just sad. Ever since he got raped by Israel Adesanya in the octagon, he hasn't been the same. He really has it, and it's tough. It's tough. It's a bitter pill to swallow for Paulo Costa, but he's done. But Islam versus Alexander Volkanovski, part 2. This is the rematch, and this is going to be another epic fight. I mean, Volkanovski, he did fight in July. He won by a knockout in the 3rd round. So, you know, Volkanovski, he's more, I would say, in tune right now, more tuned up. But obviously, Islam, they fought each other back in February, and we remember Islam won by decision. And a lot of people and a lot of fight fans were like, Volkanovski, I don't know, maybe he might have won. You know, it was just so, such a competitive fight. I think this fight card now is way better than it was with Charles Oliveira and Paulo Costa. I really do. I mean, that's why the UFC is just continuing to build a Dana White and replacing Paulo Costa for Kamaru Usman, one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. I mean, even though Usman has lost his last 2 fights against Leon Edwards, and we remember the third fight, or excuse me, the second fight they fought, he got knocked out with a head kick in the 5th round, and really Usman was winning that fight, and it was just, a headshot. And shout out to Leon Edwards. He got the job done. And then they fought for the 3rd time. And Leon really just, outclassed Kamaru Usman. And really, it looked like Usman was kind of slowing down, kind of maybe passing his prime. But, for Usman to replace Costa, and then we have Volkanovski to replace Oliveira, I think this is great, dude. Like, this is even a better card than it was before. So that's why I say, Dana White and the UFC, they know what they're doing. They know the big business in the UFC, and they're out in Abu Dhabi next weekend. It's going to be lit. It really is, man. Like, the UFC is just, it's continuing to grow. And I think the Islam Volkanovski fight is going to be even better than it was back in February. I really do. Even though I didn't see it live, I got to see it, and I was like, man, I was impressed by both sides. But we know what, Islam is about. He's going to try to get you to the ground, and he's going to try to utilize that ground and pound. That's what Islam is about, and he's great at submissions. He has 11 wins by submission, 2 of them by triangle, 3 of them by rear naked choke, 3 of them by armbar, and 2 of them by triangle armbar. So Islam is an expert on the ground, and that's what he's going to try to do. But as far as Volkanovski-wise, he's resilient. He's a champion in a different weight class. So it's a battle of 2 champions right now. And Volkanovski, really, he's in a nice spot because, yes, I understand 2 weeks out before the fight, but also he's not fighting for his weight belt. He's fighting in Islam's division for his belt, so he's not going to lose a belt if he loses his fight. So I'm looking at Volkanovski, even though he did lose the first fight, there's a little bit less pressure on Volkanovski because he's not fighting for his belt in his division. And number 2, he does think, hey, I could have got robbed. Maybe that'll add more fuel to this fight. So I can't wait for this, man. I think Islam, though, Islam, I'm going to favor Islam. Obviously, it's his division, his weight class, and really Islam probably walks around about 175, 180, so he is kind of a weight bully, and I think Islam, if he does win this fight, I dare Islam to go up to 170 and fight the winner of Colby Covington and Leon Edwards, which I do think Colby Covington's going to win that fight. I just don't see Islam wanting to fight Colby Covington. We see some of these guys like Islam, like Chimaev, they want to pick on the guys that aren't great at wrestling, the guys that, really aren't as good on their feet either. Just kind of pick a weight bully, and he's not going to do that with Colby. So I think Islam is just using Colby's name to get, some headlines and, people chirping about it. But at the end of the day, I dare Islam to go up to 170. 155, that's little dog weight. This is Volkanovski and Islam. This is Chihuahuas here, dude. This ain't no Doberman pictures. This ain't pit bulls. This isn't Rottweilers here. Like, this isn't German Shepherds, Alaskan Huskies. No, this is little dog weight. So if Islam is really about that life, then go up to 170 and fight Colby Covington, America's champ. So I hope he does. But obviously I'm going to lean more towards Islam. Islam's probably had the fuller camp. Like I said, Volkanovski's fought in July, so he really is coming off this fight where it's just like, wow, everything's coming so quick within a week and a half from UFC 294. Like, that is crazy to me, but they've been training their whole life, so there's no excuse at the end of the day. I think Alexander, if he's going to win this fight, it's going to be by knockout. It's not going to go to decision, and if it does go to decision, Islam's going to win this fight by decision. Now, if Alexander Volkanovski wins, it's going to be by catching him with the right hand where, Islam isn't really ready for that. And I think that's really a possibility because we saw Islam get knocked out back in 2015. I think it was an overhand right, and he just got dropped, dude, like a bag of ice, just dropped, just like that. But, you learn from your defeats. In Islam right now, he's a champion, so is Volkanovski. Utmost respect for both of these fighters, so I can't wait for the main event. This is going to be epic. This whole card is stacked, man. And a lot of people are saying this is the best card ever. Stop it. Pump the brakes. It's not even the top 5 greatest cards of all time. It's really not. Yes, there's some great fighters, but come on, dude. We're forgetting like John Jones. We're forgetting the legends of the sport that built the UFC, like the Chuck Liddells, like the Lyoto Machidas, the Rampage Jacksons. Like, a lot of people forgot about those fighters. So, we have to respect the old fighters that built up this organization to where it's at today. Because we look at a lot of the old UFC fighters where, a lot of them probably are, working their local gym, struggling financially. So it is kind of sad to see some of that. It really is. But Islam Alexander, I'm leaning more towards Islam right now, who only has 1 loss in the UFC. So I can't wait for this, man. Volkanovski, you know he's going to come ready. So I cannot wait for the main event. And then we got the co-main, Kamaru Usman versus Chimaev. This is going to be great. Kamaru Usman is 20-3 in the UFC. Like I said, the last 2 fights, he took an L to Leon Edwards. So I think for Kamaru Usman, he's actually at a different, stage of his life. He's no longer a champion right now. He's kind of getting older. He's been in the UFC for a while, so he's considered a veteran in the UFC right now. So I'm looking at Kamaru Usman and saying, has he lost his stat possibility? Has he lost any of his hunger possibility in a way? Has he done that? So I think in his last fight against Leon Edwards, that wasn't the hungry Usman that I'm used to seeing. He was kind of slowing down on his feet. His knees didn't seem to move well. He just wasn't moving well. It was just like he was just, too much muscle on him. I don't know. But I'm never going to doubt Kamaru Usman. Like, if I had $1 million right now to put on this fight alone, I would probably lean more towards Kamaru. The experience, everything he's been through, the former champion. So, but no disrespect to Chimaev. He does get a lot of hype. What's crazy is he had so much hype this time last year. Now all of a sudden, the hype's kind of died down in a way. So I think for Chimaev, he's in a different spot as well. They gave him a layup fight to fight Colby Covington this summer, and he fumbled the bag. We saw Chimaev go overweight by 8 or 9 pounds. Very unprofessional. This is a multi-billion-dollar company here. Chimaev, like, this isn't a joke, dude. Like, you missed weight by 8 pounds, 9 pounds. That's why you're not fighting for the belt right now. Chimaev could arguably be fighting for the belt at this very moment, dude. But he messed up. He was unprofessional, and he's going to learn from that. Now, Chimaev will eventually get a title shot. Absolutely. He last fought back in September of last year, and that was against Kevin Holland. No disrespect to Kevin Holland, but come on, dude. That's a little makeup fight there. So, and then before the Kevin Holland fight, he fought Gilbert Burns, which really Gilbert pushed him to the test. And yes, Chimaev did get his chin definitely tested out. He did drop in the 2nd round, right at the end of the bell. But I'm looking at Chimaev and realizing, hey, what type of fighter are you? You can't just go in here and brawl these guys. Like, I feel like for Usman, moving up in weight to 185 is huge. Chimaev's a big dude. He could even go to light heavyweight if he wanted. So that's why I applaud Kamaru Usman to go up in weight, 15 pounds. That's no joke. So I think 185, that's huge. But I think for Usman, he looks like he can walk around at like 205. So I think for both of these fighters here in this matchup, 185 should be easy to make. It really should. I mean, they're probably walking around at like 200 when they're not in training camp, when they're eating a lot, eating whatever they want, not on a strict diet. But overall, these two guys right here, like 185, easy to make. There's no excuse. But for Chimaev right here, this is a prove-it fight right here. Are you a really good fighter in the UFC? Are you a prima donna, a hype person, just worried about all the other things besides the fight game inside the octagon? So I think for Chimaev, a lot of pressure's on him right now. He was preparing to fight Paulo Costa, a completely different fighter than Kamaru Usman. Paulo Costa isn't a former champion. He hasn't been in those type of fights. So I think him fighting Usman is definitely going to be a big challenge for Chimaev. I'm not going to make a final prediction until like a day before the fight, but right now I'm leaning towards Usman. I'm leaning more towards the experience. You're not just going to ragdoll Usman. Usman's a strong dude. He's a former wrestler in college. Like, he knows these type of things. So I think for Chimaev here, like, he realizes, hey, I can't just ragdoll Usman. He is a former champion. And I think if Chimaev comes into this fight overconfident, over cocky, I do think that's going to lead him to defeat here. Like, you cannot do that. Yes, I understand you waxed all the other dudes. You're 12-0. Woo, big deal. Like, you're fighting a former champion here, the number one contender right now. He was probably going to get the winner, Colby and Leon. So right now, this fight has the potential to get that winner here. So I think, even though it's up and weight at 185, but for Chimaev, dude, like, there are definitely some question marks here. So I think, when this fight really does happen, I think Chimaev and Usman realize, hey, our strengths are definitely wrestling. That's going to cancel out. So I could see this fight being one big brawl here. Somebody's going to get knocked out. It's either going to be Usman or Chimaev. I don't see this fight going the distance. Like, I could see Islam and Volkanovski's fight going the distance. Absolutely. But this fight with Usman and Chimaev, I think it's going to end by knockout. One of them are going to get knocked out. Somebody is. I mean, Usman has that right who knocked out Gamebred. Shout out to Masvidal, but knocked him out clean in the second round, the second time they fought. And that was a pure, clean right. So I think if Usman lands a couple rides on Chimaev, dude, Chimaev's going to wake up, on his back if he doesn't, really respect his opponent here. If, like I said, if he comes in overconfident, overcocky, saying all crazy things, I'm going to kill everybody. Well, let's see it here. If you're really a killer, if you're really a true wolf here, I want you to really go through Usman then, But the thing is, even if he does beat Usman, I'm not going to be like, oh, that is a great win, absolutely. But I'm not going to be like, oh, that's a 10 out of a 10, because looking at Usman's last couple fights, we have seen like Usman kind of slow down on his punches, slow down on his footwork, slow down on sloppy wrestling. It was just like maybe, Usman in a way has lost a little hunger here. Usman on the movies, doing different things. So I think for Usman right now, maybe he let off on the gas a little bit, and I think Chimaev senses that. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. I can't wait, man. Like, this is going to be epic. It really is. But Usman, a lot of people are down him. So, when people doubt Usman, that's when I'm going to bet on Usman, because he normally comes in the clutch. The Leon Edwards, the second time they fought, that lucky kick, if Usman just, was on his P's and Q's and taking him down in the 5th round and literally sitting on him, he would have won easy by decision. He won like 4 rounds that fight. So, like, for Usman, he just caught an unlucky break, and then he just got beat fair and square the 3rd time they fought. So, for Usman, man, I do think a little bit of the gas tank has gotten towards the E here for Usman. It's just, it's not the same Usman that I'm used to seeing. Now, come in a couple weeks, it might be that young Usman, the hungry, we're going to shut this dude up, this hype train. Chimaev, he's getting all this hype, all this publicity. Everybody's talking about him, not just in the MMA world, the sports world. So, it's going to be interesting. It really is. But right now, I'm leaning more towards Usman, and I'm leaning more towards Islam in the main event. That's just, right now I am. But Volkanovski, like I said, he's a champion. He's battle resilient. He understands what's at stake here. And I think, back to the main event, if Volkanovski wins this fight, it's going to be by knockout here. It's going to be standing on feet. It's going to be, hey, Islam, you're not going to take me down. You're not going to put me up against the cage. You're not going to do these different things. You're just not, dude. So I can't wait for this fight, man. Shout out to Dana White and the UFC, man. They when a curveball is thrown at them, when 2 fighters are pulled out of this fight, Charles Oliveira cut, and then Paulo Costa an elbow because he's soft. And you know what Dana White said? He said, that's fine. I'm going to get better fighters in there. I'm going to get a better fighter. Volkanovski's better than Charles Oliveira. And then we got Usman, who's way better than Paulo Costa. But JV to varsity level, dude. Paulo Costa's JV. Usman is D1 talent, dude. That's the difference there. There's levels to this. So Dana said, I'm going to level up UFC 294 to where it wasn't before a week ago. Even a day ago. So I think it's great, man. So I'm leaning more towards Islam and Kamaru Usman, man. I cannot wait for UFC 294. It's the Clown with Cam show. Let's go!